10 Lowest Tax Burden States in America. Americans' tax burdens, or the amount of taxes paid by a person represented as a proportion of their income, vary by state. Some states impose annual income taxes, while others don't, but charge relatively high sales taxes instead. Added on to that are property taxes, license taxes, corporate income taxes, and more. This is an exploration of state total tax collections as a percentage of personal income. Let's see how states stack up. Number 10. Alabama, with only a 1.9% personal income tax, a very low 1.4% property tax, 4% sales tax and 0.7% license and other taxes, you get to their total of 7.5% total personal tax burden. It is also interesting to note that Alabama ranks the 10th highest in rate of residence dependency on federal aid, as well as the state government being the 16th most dependent of federal aid. Number 9. Moving to the Midwest, we have Missouri with a 2% personal income tax, plus 2.1% property tax, 2.9% sales tax and 0.3% license and other taxes, you get to their total of 7.4% total personal tax burden. Missouri ranks in the middle of the pack, 28th highest rate of residence dependency on federal aid. But the state government bursts into single digits, being the 8th most dependent of federal aid. Number 8. Moving to the northern border, we have Montana. It has a 2.3% personal income tax, plus 3.3% property tax, 1.2% sales tax and 0.6% license and other taxes, you get to their total of 7.3% total personal tax burden. Bonus rank. Montana ranks 6th in length of international border. Montana ranks 14th highest rate of residence dependency on federal aid. The state government is rocking single digits, being the 7th most dependent of federal aid. Number 7. And now, we have our first rectangle state, South Dakota, our first entrant on the list with 0% personal income tax. However, there is 2.7% property tax, 3.9% sales tax and 0.7% license and other taxes to bring their total to 7% total personal tax burden. Bonus fact. The 1899 decision to split the Dakota Territory was purely a political move to achieve extra senators and members of Congress. Otherwise, we would have just one Dakota and it would rank as one of the bigger states in land mass size. South Dakota comes in a little better than average when it ranks 29th in highest rate of residence dependency on federal aid. The state government, however, is top 5 with its ranking of as the 4th most dependent of federal aid. Number 6. We now have our first coastal state, Delaware, making the list with 3.1% personal income tax, 1.9% property tax, 1.1% sales tax and 0.7% license and other taxes to bring their total to 6.8% total personal tax burden. Delaware comes best on our list as it ranks 50th in highest rate of residence dependency on federal aid. The state government is exactly midway at 25th most dependent of federal aid, giving it a combined rank of 42nd least federally dependent. Number 5. The only phallic-shaped state in the nation, Florida. Another state with 0% personal income tax, but 2.7% property tax, 3.5% sales tax and 0.5% license and other taxes, it brings them to 6.7% total personal tax burden. Staggering fact. Florida has a corporation that is its state's biggest employer, biggest attraction and biggest tax generator, generating resort, airport, hotel, sales, and employee taxes, helping to keep the tax burden for all Floridians low. Do you know who it is? Florida comes better than average when it ranks at 30th highest rate of residence dependency on federal aid. The state government is also below average at 32nd most dependent of federal aid. Number 4. We are headed to the Rocky Mountains, with Wyoming, our third state with 0% personal income tax, and with 3.3% property tax, 2.8% sales tax and 0.1% license and other taxes, it brings them to 6.6% total personal tax burden. Astonishing fact. Wyoming is ranked the 52nd smallest population among U.S. states and territories, having even less population than both Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. Wyoming has 3 members of Congress despite having just barely more population than the city of Albuquerque, New Mexico, who has 0 members of Congress. Wyoming comes about average when it ranks 24th highest rate of residence dependency on federal aid. However, the state government takes the gold on this list, being number 1 most dependent of federal aid. making it the 6th overall most dependent state on federal funds. Number 3. We come to our New England entrant, New Hampshire. It comes in with a tiny 0.1% personal income tax, a much higher 4.8% property tax, 1% sales tax and 0.4% license and other taxes, for a total personal tax burden of 6.4%. Fast fact: New Hampshire is one of only 3 states that does not require a helmet when riding a motorcycle. Having a cracked open head is a good way to lower your tax burden too, I guess. New Hampshire does basically average as the 23rd most federally dependent state. Its residents are only the 41st most federally dependent. The state government is significantly more dependent, coming in ranked 14th. Number 2. Tennessee. This Mid-South state is another state with 0% personal income tax rate. Its 1.4% property tax is also low. The sales tax, however, is 4.4% and license and other taxes tack on another 1.1% for a total tax burden of 6.1%. Micro fact: Tennessee saw an almost 9% increase in population in the last decade, and some parts of the state are in a bit of an infrastructure squeeze as they attempt to find capital, skilled labor, and land management to accommodate all the newbies. Tennessee follows the same story as our last entrant. It's slight worse than average as the 22nd most federal dependent state. Its residents squeak out above average, being the 26th most federal dependent residents. Its government's budget is the 18th most federally dependent. And now we come to the end of our list. Number 1. Going to where some people can see Russia from their house, Alaska. First we start with the other thing. Alaska is number 1 in federal dependency. Its residents are the 3rd most dependent and the state government is the 2nd most dependent. Combining to take home the gold in this category. 2. Free income fact: the Alaska Permanent Fund provided every Alaskan resident $3,284 in 2022. Its 3rd highest, inflation-adjusted, payout since the fund started in 1982, and enough for a lot of residents to cover their entire year's worth of tax burden. Alaska is the 5th state on the list with a 0% income tax rate. It does have a 3.6% property tax rate, 1.5% sales tax rate and a 0.2% licensing rate, bringing the total personal tax burden of our number 1 entrant to 5.4%. And that's it. What can be learned from this list? Often, tax burden is shifted around to different categories to give an illusion of a discount. Kind of like buying a couch at one of those going out of business furniture store sales. The couch may actually be only $200, but the matching loveseat and coffee table bring the set to pretty much the same price as any other store. States which have residents or state governments dependent on federal funds are also shifting tax burden too. So while you may tax your residents less, other residents are paying portions of your state budget and residence bills. The sweet spot from this list of 10 is probably Delaware. It has low personal tax burden, while not fully relying on federal funds to support its residents and state budget. Thanks for watching. Do me a quick favor and caress those like, share, and subscribe buttons.